Hello and welcome to another VRTK live stream with me, TheStoneFox, and Jasmine from VR with Jasmine.
Hey,
I'm getting really good at
happy
these.
Sunday.
The intros are getting more and more professional. Right, let's race through stuff quickly so we can actually get on with the game. So, as usual, VRTK website. Oh no, shall we do it the other way that we did last week where we talk about what we're doing first? Let's do that. That was a better way of doing it. Right, so in
Yeah.
this episode, what we're going to do is finish off this game. We're going to get some additional stuff in that we spoke about last stream. We're going to get where you can actually get hit, have an energy bar, maybe add a score in there. Um, Deal with fading the screen when we get hit so we get physical effects, and if we get time we might put some particle effects in and we might add some sounds and things like that. I've actually done a lot of this stuff off the stream, so I've got a little video just showing kind of like what the end thing will do. If we don't get all this stuff finished, what I'll do is I'll finish it up off stream, and we'll just post the project again so people can go and see what this is like. And this, I've actually been playing this on the Quest as well, so it works perfectly fine on Quest. So maybe we'll put this on App Lab when we're done. That could be something quite fun to do. Um,
Yeah, so we got through making the gun, having it shoot, having the enemies pop up. So what are we doing today?
let's just tidy it up with like health, score. Get rid of this silly
Yep.
cube in the middle. Um, do some nice
So
effects where if you get hit, you get a visual effect of being hit. Simple things like that, really. Just tidying it up, finishing it off. And I say, if we get any time, we'll add some other cool things like particle effects and sound effects and whatnot. But if we
cool.
don't get time for that, then well, we'll just move on to something else next week. Right, so let's just run through the other stuff quickly, then we can get on with it. So VRTK website, vrtk.io for all your information that you require about VRTK, and the Patreon if you want to support VRTK, as VRTK is free and open source. So please consider becoming a patron, and I'll give a shout out to Toolkit, who's at the level to get the shout outs in the videos. And finally, Jasmine's website, VRWithJasmine.com. Do you want to do the blurb?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to focus a little more today on a YouTube video I posted yesterday. So it was a VR video about how VR is not just for gamers, but it is really for
Why
everybody
don't
in
you
the future of VR, which is for like education, which is kind of what we're doing a little bit right now. But yeah, that's a really great video that I
let's
just posted. Yeah, that one, VR can't be stopped. So
Yeah.
if you have any friends, family, or people who are like, that VR is not for me, or they don't really get it, this video will help you get it.
I'll post a link in the description down below as well for people that are interested in going to watch this as well. But yeah, definitely go check this out. It's a really cool video. Um,
Thanks.
Right, that's everything, isn't it? Last thing as well, consider subscribing to the channel and consider subscribing to Jasmine's channel. Go and join Jasmine's Discord as well. Follow us on Twitter, all those sorts of things. The social media life. Right, shall we get into things and get this done? So, first thing I want to do is, do you remember we had this cube that we were kind of using as a table that our handgun falls onto, and then we pick our handgun up and then we can start shooting our handgun. It's it served a purpose, but it was a little bit um it's a bit of a rubbish game mechanic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this cube and we're just going to do something super duper quick and simple. That what we're going to say, anytime we press our grip on either one of our controllers, what we actually want it to do at that point is just have the gun snap to our hand. So if we don't have the gun in our hand and we press the grip button, we want the gun to snap to our hand, so immediately appear in our hand, so we don't have to bother picking it up or anything like that. So in the past, we've used the distance grabbers, the pointer interactors, where we can hover over and then things suck to our hand. We're not going to bother with anything like that in this. We're just going to keep it super simple. And when we press the grip, the gun just appears in our hand. And if we press the grip on the other controller, it will switch to the other hand. And it's really, really easy to do. So what we can do for this is if we go to our tracked alias and then go to our interactor, so we've got the left interactor and the right interactor. On the left interactor, if we just go to the button that we're actually using for the action, which is left grip press, all we're going to do in here is when we activate left grip, so when we press it down, we're going to add an event. And on this event, we're going to get our handgun interactable. and we're going to call a method on the interactable facade, and we're going to call grab interactor facade, and then we're going to tell it what interactor is grabbing. So when we press left grip, we want, basically what's happening here is we're saying when we press our left grip on our left controller, we want to tell our handgun to be grabbed by the left interactor. And that's literally it. So we're saying left interactor grabs this interactable when we press the left controller. There's another way of doing this as well. Either way is perfectly fine. So we'll do this on the right one. So on right interactor, if we go to the right grip press, we're going to do this the other way round, but both are perfectly fine. Instead of saying when we press the right grip, tell the interactable to be grabbed by the interactor, what we can do is say tell the interactor, so we've grabbed the right interactor, and we're going to go to the interactor facade on this, and we're going to call grab interactable, and then we're going to pass handgun in here. So this is doing the same thing but from the other side of the chain. So this is basically saying when we press the right grip, tell the interactor to grab this interactable, and this way round is saying when we press the left grip, tell the interactable to get grabbed by the interactor. You see, they're doing the same thing at the end of the day, but they're just doing it from different sides of the chain effectively. So you can have an interactor automatically grab an interactable, or you can get an interactable to automatically snap to an interactor. Um, but for this, actually, what I'll do is I'll just make sure they're both done the same way, just so it's clean. So in here, we'll put the interactable facade, grab interactive facade, and that is grabbed by the right interactor. And that's it, we're done. Now when we press our either of our grips, that gun's going to snap straight to our hand. I'm not going to bother setting this up yet. Let's just put this gun on the floor down there for now. I'm not going to run this yet. We'll run the game in a bit when we've got more stuff done. Right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding a player script so we can track what the player is doing. So let's create a new script called player. So create C# script, and we'll call this player. And then we'll open the player script up. And we don't want any of this stuff. And we don't want any of this stuff. And what we're going to do is we're going to give our player some health so you can get hit effectively. So the first thing we're going to do is just come up with what's the default health that the player has. So we're going to create a variable for that. So public, this is going to be a float variable, and we'll call it default health, and we'll set that to 100. So by default, your health is at 100. And then we need some variable that actually tracks our current health, but we don't want to make this public, so we'll have this private. So private float current health, and that doesn't have to be anything yet. And then what we need now is some way of setting, when we start the game, our current health becomes our default health. So we're gonna create a method called reset player, and we're going to call this whenever we want to reset the player's state. So the initial state of the player is going to be their current health is their default health. Whoops, health. So whenever we call reset player, their current health goes back to 100. So that's really, really straightforward. And then we just need somewhere that this now gets reset. So when we first start the game, we want to basically reset the player. So private void start. Oops. We call reset player. Start is one of these special Unity methods that always gets called. You can see it's a special method because it turns blue rather than yellow. So that's telling us it's a special Unity method. So now we've got something super duper simple in there. We've got reset player, and that sets our health. What we also need now is some way of being able to take damage. So that's straightforward as well. We just need to have another method. Public void, and we'll call this take damage, and we'll pass through a float of how much damage we've taken. And in here, whenever we take damage, we're just going to decrease our current health. Current health is going to be minus equal to the damage that we've been given. So whatever current health is, we're going to take off damage. So minus equals is a really quick way of basically writing this. Current health equals current health minus damage. So that line there is doing the same as this line there. Minus equals is the same as basically saying current health minus damage. So the existing value of current health minus whatever we pass in. So we've now got something really simple where we can say we've got a health of 100. Every time we take damage, we want to reduce our health by 100. We're going to come back in a minute and we're going to add some stuff in where we show visual effects, etc. But what we want to do now is have it where the player can get hit by the enemy. So to do that, actually no, let's do the no, yeah, we will do that first. So what we're going to do is go over to our enemy script. Um, Actually, before we do that, let's put our player script where it needs to be. So for the player script, we're just going to stick it on the headset alias. Let's collapse a bunch of these up. And we're just going to put our player script on our headset alias. So our headset is effectively our player in this regard. Right, so the next thing we need to do is in our enemy script, we need to be able to get a reference to that player. Well, you remember we were already getting a reference to player because we were getting a reference to the game object. Now, actually, what we want is a reference to that player script rather than the game object itself. So what we can do here is just change this to player, and then we're going to get some errors. This is going to error because it's going to say target isn't player, because that's finding a game object. So what we actually want to do is when that finds a game object, we want to get the component player off it. So we can do that just using get component. And these are all standard Unity methods as well. Because we've got a script called player, we can do that. So now target has become player. So now we have a reference to this. One other thing as well, just quickly, one thing I have noticed is we had this where we were calling invoke destroy me, and then we were destroying after a certain number of seconds. What I remembered is actually destroy takes a time in itself, so you can just do this, destroy 4f, and then you don't have to wait 4 seconds and then call another method. You can just do that, and what that will do is it will destroy that game object in 4 seconds. So we've cleaned that up a little bit by doing that. Right, so where have we got to? So now we've got a reference to player, and we're getting that reference when we start this game object. So when the enemy is cloned in, it goes off and gets a reference to the player in the scene, and then it stores it. So we have a reference to that. So now what we want to do is know when the enemy is actually hitting the player, and when it hits the player, we want to basically say make damage occur to the player. So what we can do for that, wait for this to just compile. What we can do for that is a number of things. We could say, well, the enemy has got a collider on them. When their collider touches our collider, we know we've been hit. We could do all clever and complex things like that. But I'm going to keep this really, really simple because what we know is when the enemy does its swipe animation, it's it's only doing that animation when it's within a certain distance of us. So we're just going to use that. We're going to say, well, if the enemy's swinging its sword at us, we're going to take damage if we've got to the point where the sword is in its fully out position. And we're just going to use the whole animation thing to do that. And this is a really, really cool little trick for stuff like this. If we go to our monster and then to the animations of the monster, I think they're on the animations. Let me just double check something. It's on attack, I believe. Um, is this where you do it? I can't remember now. It might not be on here. Where is it that you add? Oh, here it is on the events. So we want to add a new event. And what you can do, if I make this a little bit bigger, with animations, and this is tends to be used for playing sound effects and things like that, when this part of the animation is on. So if you look at walk, for instance, you can scrub through and say, well, where would the footstep sounds be? There'd be like a footstep sound there, his foot's gone down there, and there'd be a footstep sound like near the start, like there, where his foot's gone down. So that's usually how I do sound effects, but we're going to use this to know when he's hit us. So again, if we go back to attack, I'm not going to apply that. If we go back to attack and we just play this, we can see he swings his sword, and as he swings his sword, at that point, let's just assume he's hit us. So when the animation gets to that point, if we've allowed the animation to get to there, we're going to say he's hit us. So what we can do is add an event. So these animations come with events, and we click add event. And now this is a bit of a weird magic system. It is really good, but it's a little bit weird. If we create an event now called hit, let's say, This now creates a link to our enemy script looking for a method called hit. So this is a little bit magic, but we've created an event here. We can see it here. When the sword gets to this point, it's going to call the method hit. So based on that, if we just apply that so it gets saved and we go back into our enemy code, now if we create a public method in here, public void hit, nope, hit, that's going to get called if this animation event gets reached. So this is something that probably a lot of beginners don't realize about the animation system in Unity, that you can do these cool little events, and most of the time they're used to just do animations and that, but we're going to use it to kind of like fake this thing, so we don't need to worry about has this collided with that or anything. We're just going to say if he's close enough to us and he's got through his swipe animation to this point, we're going to take a hit. So in our hit method now, all we need to do is call that player method take damage. So in here we've got a reference to player already. So we're going to go, it's called target, sorry, target dot take damage and how much damage you want to take. So we'll say 10. So that's basically saying if our player has got 100 uh, health to start with, every time we get hit by one of them, we're going to take 10 health off our player. So you can get hit 10 times and then you're dead. So now we've got something super duper simple in there where they're going to walk towards us, they're going to swing their sword, they're going to hit us. If they hit us, we're going to lose a bit of health. But now we need to kind of add some more things in there to make it so when they hit us, it actually has some sort of effect. Whoops, let's just close this down because I'm going to open it accidentally. So what we're going to do for that is when this is compiled, let's move all this out of the way. What we're going to do is we're going to add, we're basically just going to fade the screen when you get hit. So when you get hit, we're going to fade the screen red a little bit. So it looks like, you know, like a blood effect or something maybe. So we're going to create an empty game object here. We're going to call this hit fader. And we're going to create another one that we're going to use to fade the screen in when we start or when we reset the player. So if we're completely dead, we're going to fade everything out and we're going to reset everything. So we're going to create one called start fader. And in here, we're going to use a Zinnia component called camera color overlay. Camera color overlay. And this basically overlays a color over the entire screen. And we're going to need a material to use on here. So I'm going to create a material overlay. And actually, thinking about it, I do want to use one of the materials that's included with Tilia, and I don't think we've got that package. So let's just go and grab that package. Package importer. And it will be in the shaders package. So this usually gets included as part of other packages, but we've not used any package that's including it, so I'm going to add it myself. This just gives us some additional shaders that we can use with materials. So adding that in there, in here, we can then go down to Tilia in our material shader, and then we want this to be unlit, and we want it to be a transparent color because we want it to be semi-transparent. So that's fine for that. We'll leave that as is. And now back on our hit fader and our start fader, the first thing we need to do is say what cameras in the scene are we going to fade? Well, we can get that quite easily from our tracked alias. Our tracked alias tells us what cameras are in the scene because we've got scene cameras. So we can just drag and put that in there. Very, very straightforward. And now we need to say what material are we going to use for this fade. So that's why we created that overlay material. So we're going to put that in there. And now the next thing we need to do is basically just determine the fade on these two things. So the color when we get hit, let's have it's like a red, but we'll have it kind of like semi-transparent, so maybe 150, so we can still see through everything else, but the screen just goes a little bit red for us. And then we just want to basically say, well, how fast do we want this to happen? So I'm just going to say it comes on immediately, and then like in half a second, it's gone. So that should work there. We don't want it to have any duration of how long it takes to add. When it's been taken off the screen, we only want it to take half a second, and we don't want it to stay on any time at all. This will all make sense in a bit when we run this. And then on the start fader, we actually want to change this a bit. We don't want it to be red. We're going to have this completely black and completely opaque, so we can't see through anything. And we're going to have no add duration. We're going to increase the remove duration. So we're going to take, let's say 2 seconds to come off, and we're going to have this stay on the screen for a bit as well. So it's going to take 2 seconds. It's going to stay on the screen for 2 seconds completely black, and then it's going to take 2 seconds to fade away into nothing. So there are two faders, hit fader and start fader. And now what we need to do is get them into our player script. So back to our code for player. We're going to create two new references for those. Public camera color overlay. And that's going to tell us that it doesn't have a reference to it, which we'll fix in a minute. So we'll create one called hit fader. And I'm going to copy that and we're going to create another one called start fader. And then we've got the red lines on here, so I'm just going to go to show potential fixes, and then we just want to use Zinnia Visual because this camera color overlay is part of Zinnia. So it adds that up there for us, and now we've got access to these. So I'm going to save that, and then if we go back into our headset alias where we added the player script, we can now see we've got these two new properties, hit fader and start fader. So if I drag hit fader into hit fader and start fader into start fader, you can see we've got reference to the camera color overlay in both of those. So let's do something with it now. So for the hit fader, what we'll do is when we take damage, we'll basically do this. We'll say if our current health is greater than 0, so we're not dead yet, what we're going to do is call hit fader dot blink, and that's basically just going to pull the fight to come on and go off really, really quickly. And what we're going to now say is else, if our current health isn't greater than 0, so it's 0 or less, we've been killed. So if we've been killed, we actually want to reset the player. So we reset player. And now what we want to do in reset player is when we first start our game, we want to call our start fader dot blink. So when we start our game, it will start black and it will fade in, or when we completely die, it'll fade to black and then we'll fade into a new game. But the next thing we actually want to do is in here, we actually want to, when we reset the player, we actually want to do a little cheat thing here and try and delete all the enemies in the game because we're actually not resetting the whole scene here. We're just resetting the player state. But what we actually want to do is clear all the enemies as well. So we'll do this with a little quick cheaty way. All we're going to do is we're going to loop through all of the enemies that are already in the scene and we're just going to destroy them immediately. So we can do find objects of type, and we've got the type enemy. So this is going to give us a list of all of the enemies in the game. So we can put this into a loop. So we can do for each, and we go enemy, 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 in, enemy. So this is basically going to say this gives us an array of enemies, and this for each loop is going for each, create a new local variable called enemy for each one in this loop, and then each one we go round, we're just going to destroy it. So destroy enemy, and we actually want to destroy the game object, which is the containing object. That's gonna, when we start our game or restart our game, that's going to get rid of all the enemies for us. Super, super simple. Right, I think actually what we'll do before we play this is let's add score because score is going to be easy to add. What we'll do to add score is we're going to create an integer for score because it's just going to go up in ints, and we're going to call that score. And when we reset the player, we're going to set score to 0 equals 0. And let's create a method to update score for us. Public void update score int points, for the amount of points you get when we hit something. And what we're going to do here is say score plus equals points. So when we used minus equals down here, this is effectively the same but for plus. So we're going to add points onto whatever score is at the moment. And then to actually add points to it, we've already got something over in enemy called kill. So when we kill them, we actually want to give the player the points of when they've been killed. So what we can do in here, so when we've killed them, we're going to do target because that's our player, update score, and then how many points you get for each one. well, let's say you get 10 points for killing each one. The other thing I actually want to do in here as well is what I've noticed is when you shoot the enemy and they fall down, their collider stays active, which means you can't then shoot through them, which may be what you want or maybe not what you want, but I actually don't want that. So I'm just going to put something in here. Is when you hit the enemy, when you kill them, I'm just going to turn their collider off. So quite easily, I'm just going to get the component called collider on the enemy, and I'm just going to do enabled equals false. So that's just going to literally disable the collider as soon as we shoot the enemy, so we can't keep shooting the same enemy once it's dead. Right, so now we should have the basics of score and health. So if I actually go back here and we make in player, we make current health public. I don't actually want this to be public, but I'm doing this just so it shows up in here. So in a minute, we should see current health there. We've got score there. Game. I don't want to play maximized, play focused. So if I run this now, we should be able to see all of the stuff that I've just added. So I'm just going to put my headset on and then we'll run through this one moment. Right, my headset is on. I've got to find my controllers. There they are. Okay, right. So let's see what we've got now. So we can see the guns on the floor. And as I said, what I wanted it to actually do is when I press either of my grip buttons, I want it to automatically snap into my hand. So if I press grip on my right hand, you see the gun snapped into my right hand. If I press grip on my left hand, it snapped to my left hand. And, you know, I don't have to worry about if I lose the gun. I just have to press it and it comes back. And then when we shoot these guys, they're falling over and dying. And what we should see down here, if I can find my mouse, down here is, can't see. Down here, I've got my score going up, and we can see I'm getting hit here. My health is going down. Let's shoot some guys. Get rid of them. Go away a second. Because the next thing I want to show is the that fade. Get lost. Can't get rid of this one. It's stuck in me. You can hopefully see the fade that's going on though. Right, let's get myself where there's one attacking me. This guy will do. So as he swings at me, we should get. You're getting too close to me. That's what I need to change actually, is the distance I can get. But you see the screen kind of flashes red as I get hit. And eventually, when I get killed, the screen will flash black. Everyone will disappear and we'll start again. If anyone wants to attack me.
The
Anybody?
flashing red is cool.
I mean, it's super easy to add as well. None of these guys
Yeah.
want to attack me for some reason. I need to change the
Make them
attack
more
distance.
aggressive.
Well, there's an attack distance and they're getting too close. I need to make that attack distance further away. Away. Right, let's fix that because they're getting too close, so they're not attacking. So we had an attack distance that we'd set on them already on the prefab. So the skeleton here, if we open this on the enemy script, we've got an attack range. If I put this up to like 2, let's say, maybe 2.1. Let's see what 2.1 looks like. So that's how far they have to be away from us to attack us. So if I run this again. So you can see the game starts black now and then it fades in. That's the other fader we added. But you can do like silly effects like this, makes it look like you're really good at catching. But really it's just snapping to the other hand. Let's wait for some of these to come over and see if they attack any better now. Let's see if I can shoot a few of them. You can die as well. And you can die. I only want this one. Don't know what he's doing. There we go. He's hitting me now too. You can die now. And you can die. This one going to get me? They're definitely attacking at a better range now. I could probably still move it back a little bit because they're kind of like clipping through me. Let's see if I can actually get killed now. This guy wants to have a go at me as well, does he? Nope. I don't know why they're getting stuck. This guy's hitting me. Maybe I should move the attack range back a little bit. They're still a bit close. Why is this guy not attacking? Alright, let's just kill a few of them. There we go. Hit me again, boy. I'll try and get it down to 0 health. There we go. So it killed me. We get the black screen, and the game starts again. Because basically what we've just done is just killed all of the other enemies. So let's stop that. Let's just go and move that attack range back a little bit. It's still a bit close. 2.4, let's say. We can tweak that to get it right. Right, let's save our scene. So we've got a lot in now. We've basically got score, we've got health, and we've got kind of like a game cycle. We can shoot. It infinitely goes on, but we can get killed, and then the game starts again. Our score resets, etc. So what we'll do now? Let me just take my headset off quickly. What we'll do now is add some stuff in the world so we can see score and we can see our health. So I'm going to do this super duper quickly by just using some text. So what we'll do is I'll create a new game object and I'll call it scoreboard. Oops. Scoreboard. And in here we're going to add just some text. We're going to use Text Mesh Pro for this. So go down to Text Mesh Pro. We haven't got Text Mesh Pro installed, so it'll ask us to install it. So we want to do that. And we can close that. And right, here's our text down here. This is going to be the title. So we'll call this score title. And then let's just set this into a position 3.25, 25 should be fine. And I'm just going to call this score. And just move this down a bit so I can see the rest of it. And we'll make this font a bit smaller. Actually, no, we'll leave it quite big. And we want to center this, don't we? So center and center. And let's change the color to like an orange or something. Right, that should be fine. And then let's position scoreboard now. Let's get this nice and out of the way. So if I do like minus 8.2 and then 16, let's say, and then let's move him 24. So he's over this house, and then I'm just going to rotate it minus 25, just so he's kind of like sticking out over that house, roughly where we're looking forward. And then what we'll do under here is we'll add another, we're just going to copy that, another Text Mesh Pro field, and we'll call this value. And if I set this to 0, that should appear underneath it then. And by default, let's put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 0. No, let's go 9 zeros. And that should be fine. Let's change the color to maybe a yellow. Anything else I need to do on that? I think that should be fine. So that's going to be our score up there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get a reference to those game objects so we can update them in our player. So we go to our player code and we're going to need a reference to our Text Mesh Pro score text. So public, this is a Text Mesh Pro, we'll call it score text. Again, we don't have Text Mesh Pro included here, so we need to using TM Pro, which gets added there, so that now works. So right, what can we do with score text? So the first thing we can do here quite easily is when we update our score, we just need to update score text. So score text is now going to equal a new string of the current score, but we basically want to pad it out to, I think we put 9 zeros in, so we want to pad it out to 9 zeros. So we can just do score dot to string, and then we can put a format in here. If we put D9, that basically pads it out to 9 digits. So if the score is 10, it'll be 10 with 7 nines in front of it. Um, so that's fine there. And then the first thing we want to do is when we actually start the game or reset the game, we want to update our score back to 0. So here we can just do update score 0. That should work there. So now we've got a score field working. Next thing we can do is get a health bar working. So to do our health
For
bar,
the,
what we can do,
can you hear me?
yeah, sorry, what were you saying?
I was gonna say for the score. So it's basically like just capturing the each point that you get as an integer and adding it into the score, and then replaces that original text you have there with the zeros with the new one at the
Exactly.
end of each one.
That's exactly what it's doing. So every time we hit something, we get that new score value that gets updated. So if we go back to the code, um, we
It
get that.
updates every time you get a new score or a new point. Okay.
Yeah, so every time update score is called, so every time we shoot an enemy and that enemy gets hit, that calls update score, telling us the points. We add that to our existing player score, and then we update this text to reflect what the new score is. So, and like it's so quick, it'll just look like the score is zooming up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the next thing we're going to do is a really, really simple health bar. So this is a super easy way of doing a health bar just using a cube. So what we're going to need is to do some clever offsetting stuff here. So this will make sense in a minute. If I do this, let me show basically what I'm trying to do. So if I create a cube and I call this health bar, and let's give this uh, flat red. So that's flat red, and let's move it down a bit. So minus 2.7, let's say. Um, and what I want to do is make that, let's make it pretty big, like that big. Basically, what I want to do is I want this to scale down. But if I scale this, you see it scales from the center. And I don't actually want it to do that. I want it to scale from one hand side and go all the way down to the other hand side. Let's just put that back to 0 for the minute. And I'll show you how we can do that, basically by creating an offset. So in here, if we just create a health bar container, and then in there, if we create another empty game object called health bar offset, and then in there we put our health bar, we can now kind of get all this to work back on itself. So we can leave that as is. That's a scale of 18 to make it long there. And then on the offset, if we move it forward half of the scale, so the scale was 18, so if we move it forward by 9, it's going to allow off center. And then if we go back to the top container, on that top container, if we move it down now, 2.7, let's say, if we move it back half that way, minus 9, what happens now is if we scale our container, whoops, you can see it's going the way we want it to go. It's moving down. So all we need to do now to decrease our health is just scale this value. So 0.5 is like half health, and 1 is full health. So we've got a real simple way now of displaying how much health we've got. So let's go and add some code to do that. And all we need to do is get a reference to our health bar. So public game object health bar. And what we need to do in here is when we reset, we always want that to go back to a scale of 1, because by default, if we have a look at this, uh, this one, no, this one, sorry, by default, the scale is 1, 1, 1 across it. So we always want it to be 1, 1, 1 when we start. So let's just set that in our reset player. So when we reset, we're going to say health bar dot transform its local scale is going to be a vector 3.1. So that just makes it, this is a shortcut to basically a vector 3 of 1, 1, 1. So that's going to set our scale to 1, 1, 1. So what we're going to do now is when we take damage, we actually want to shrink our health bar for us. And we want it to shrink between whatever our maximum health is and whatever our current health is, but between a value of 1 and 0. Um, so to do that, we're going to do a little bit of vector maths. So we're going to take our health bar, transform, local scale, and we're going to make this a new vector 3. That's going to be the x value needs to be between 0 and our default health value, but we want to do what's called an inverse lerp on it. We want to take between 0 and our default health of 100, and we want to get that normalized value between 0 and 1 between it. So we can just use inverse lerp for that. So we're going to do math f dot inverse lerp, and it takes the minimum value, which is 0. The maximum value our health can be is default health, because that's what we start at. And then we want to know what our current health is. So basically, this just gives us now the value between 0 and 1, based on what our current health is to that and that. So if our health was 100, if our health was 100 and our default health is 100, this will return 1. If our current health is 50, this will return 0.5. If we had default health as 200 and our current health was now 100, that would return 0.5. So that's what that inverse lerp's doing. It's giving us a simple normalized value. And then for the other two values, we can just pass in 1f, 1f, because they're always going to be 1, 1. That's fine for this. So that should be enough. Have I put too many brackets in here? What have I done here? New vector 3. How many brackets have I got? 1f, 1f. That bracket's got to go. There we go. Right, there we go. So that now should reduce our health bar every time we get hit. So let's go and see this in action. Let me just put my headset on. Forgot to unmute my microphone. Right, we're getting errors because
What's happening?
the error is because on our player script we set up a score text and a health bar, and we've not actually specified them. So a score text got to be score value, and health bar is actually our health bar container. Right, now if we save this and run it, and if I have my microphone on, this should work. Right, so we can see our score and our health bar in the world, and you don't necessarily have to do score like this. It's just a way of doing it. We could have it follow our head around, or we could have it like on some sort of appendage. So if I shoot one of these now, you see he dies. Our score's gone to 10. Shoot the next one. Score's gone to 20. Shoot this one. He's dead. Let's wait for one of these to get close to us and then start damaging, creating damage. We watch our health bar go down. So he hits, our health bar's gone down a little bit. You see our health bar's going down in chunks. Don't want you to hit me anymore, or you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, we can see it.
our score's going up. And there we go. Every time we get hit, our health is going down. And it's super, super simple to create stuff like that. And we're getting this nice little red effect when we get hit. Right. Let's pause that.
Aren't health bars usually green,
I mean, we could make
not red?
we could make it green if you want.
And it only turns red once it gets to the end when you're almost dead.
We could do stuff like that, but for the sake of this, I'm just going to keep it one simple color, if you know what I mean. I'm not going to go over the top, so I'm just going to leave it red for now. But you could make it change color when your health got to a certain part and all that sort of stuff. But you know, for the premise of this, I'm probably not going to delve that far into it. Okay, so that's actually got through all the things that I actually wanted to do, and we've got we've got a fair bit of time left. So what we could do now is either look to wrap this one up early, or we could look at adding some more stuff. So I don't know what people want to do. We could add some particle effects in. We could add maybe some sounds in if we get time. Do you want to carry on for a bit, or
I think so. I mean, the particle effect and the sound shouldn't take too long.
well, I hope not. Let's see. Let's see how we get on.
Okay.
Right, so let's do particles first. So let's do a few particles of when we're hitting an object and potentially also when we hit the enemy. So what we're going to do for hitting an object is when we fire the gun, we're going to basically have where that gun hits, that raycast. If you remember, we did the raycast. We can get the point of what that's hit, and we're going to basically create a particle on there. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a game object, public game objects, and we're going to call this hit particle. And then we're going to create a particle that can be the hit particle now. I did bring some particles in to this. So if we go into where we're the particle collection, and then particles normal, what have we got? Let's see what I could use. What did I use over here? Muzzle flash. I use one called muzzle flash. Right, this one then. So let's just don't want to loop it. I need to now set this up. So I just want on muzzle flash, where is it? The top. I just want the top one. I don't want all these internal sparks. Actually, let's unpack this prefab. Prefab, unpack completely. I don't want all the internals of it. Oops. Just want the top. And what I want to do is let's set it to 0, 0, 0 and scale it down. 0.1, 0. Oops. 0.1, 0.1. Where's our muzzle flash gone now? So if we play it, oh no, that's not what I want. That's some muzzle flash. We'll come back to that in a minute. I actually do want that. We'll keep that. I'm gonna get rid of that. Um, I want that for when we fire the gun. This isn't that. This is when we hit something. So that one, I used birthday spark, didn't I? So let's go and grab birthday spark. This one. Put that one in. Quite a fun effect. And then in here, let's unpack this as well. Unpack completely. All I want is, I don't want all these. I just want sphere pop and birthday spark. So we're going to make this small, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. And the duration we'll make pretty short as well, 0.1. And then in sphere pop, we want that to be small as well, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. And we'll make the duration 1. So now if we look at that, just kind of looks like that. So what we'll do is we'll make some prefabs of these. Really, I should have a folder called prefabs. Create folder. Prefabs. And in there, we want to put our birthday spark. We'll call this hit particle. Particle. We want hit particle down here. All that stupid error. And we also want muzzle flash, and I don't want it off. Muzzle flash I'll put down here. We'll come back to that in a minute. Right, delete those. So now in our gun script, we've got, well, actually I need to add that there. So in our gun script, we've now got hit particle. So we want our particle to be hit particle. So put that there. And then what we're going to do is when we shoot our gun, which is this code here, when it finds out where it's been hit, we basically want to create a copy of that hit particle and put it where our gun has hit. So before the enemy gets hit, because this can always happen. So basically we're going to create a new game object, and we'll call it hit effect equals, and we're going to instantiate hit particle. So I'll explain what this is doing. We've basically put in a prefab into here when we hit something, we want to create a copy of that prefab, which is what instantiate's doing, into hit effect. And now we can do something with hit effect. Basically, what we want to do is set the hit effect, oops, hit effects, transform position. We're going to position this where the gun has ended up hitting. Well, we know that from the raycast. This hit data tells us a point in the world where it hit. So we can just do hit data dot point. So that's going to set that effect to wherever we hit in the world. And then what we're going to do is just destroy this particle after a couple of seconds. So destroy hit effect after 1 second, let's say. Oops. Right. So super simple. We've got a hit particle there. That's fine. So now if we run the game, very simple particle. If we grab the gun, wherever I shoot, you can see we've now got like a particle effect. These aren't actually appearing. You can see it's not appearing when I shoot over the houses. If I hit one of them, we get like the particles appearing. It's showing us where we're hitting. The reason this isn't hitting is because we don't have colliders on them, so we can fix that quite easily. So if
Oh,
we
on the house.
yeah, if we select all our houses and we just add a mesh collider, and we do the same for the trees, on all our trees, we'll add a mesh collider. And then maybe on the mountains and the hills as well, we'll add their mesh collider as well. That should be enough, I think. Right, let's run that again. So now we can shoot the house scene. Wherever we hit, we get that effect appear. Really simple to do, but you know, it's effective.
Yeah, and it helps people know where they're shooting too.
Exactly. So the next thing we'll do while we're on the gun is we'll use that muzzle flash. So we'll add in the ability that we can actually, when we fire the gun, we can see the flash come off. So what we want to do is on our handgun, I had a barrel, already had the shot origin, so that's fine. So the next thing we want to do then is create another public game object, and we'll call this muzzle part of, yeah, no, we'll call it shot particle. Shot particle. Um, and what shot particle is going to do is when we shoot our gun, doesn't matter where we shoot it, we're just going to instantiate this muzzle flash at the end of our gun. So we're going to do game object muzzle flash equals instantiate shot particle. And we want to actually make this appear at the end of our gun. Well, we know the end of our gun, it's barrel. So we can actually tell it what we want this to be a child of. So we're going to say barrel.transform. And what that does for us, in this one, where we had to position it in the world where we wanted it to be, instead of positioning it, as long as we put it where our barrel is and we child it to the barrel, it's going to look like it's coming out the end of the barrel all the time. But what we don't want to do then is have it, when we fire it and we move our gun, we don't want it to follow the barrel. We just want it to appear where the barrel is to start with. So if we instantiate the particle at the position of as a child of the barrel, we'll get all the position and rotation stuff for free. But then what we want to do is immediately say, well, actually, you're not the child of its existing world space. So we can do that really easily by just setting its parent to nothing. So we can do muzzle flash.transform.set parent to null. So it doesn't have a parent. And now whenever we fire our gun, this muzzle flash will come out, and if we move our gun, it doesn't follow us. And then we just want to destroy this muzzle flash after half a second maybe. So destroy muzzle flash after half a second. And now if we go back to our game, I actually need to set this up, don't I? We need to give it a shot particle, which is muzzle flash. So now if I hold my gun and fire, you see we've got like the flash coming out the front of the gun now. And wherever I fire, it looks like the gun's kind of like going off.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got two real simple particles. Let's just get rid of that gun. So there's two simple particles we've got in there. Maybe before carrying on with any more particles, we can add some sounds in. So I've actually got a bunch of sounds already. So if I grab these and drag them over here, let's see if these appear in here. It's going to work. Yeah, so we've got a bunch of sounds here. So we're going to start adding these in now. So what can we do? Let's do the gun ones first. Handgun. Super simple again. We've done sounds before. We're going to add an audio source onto the handgun. And that audio source is going to have an audio clip called gunshot that it just plays the gunshot sound. And then in our gun script, we just need a reference to this audio source to basically play it. So in our handgun, again, we're going to reference our audio source. So public audio source, and we'll call this sound player. And then all we need to do is say, when we shoot, we just want to play that sound. So sound player, we're going to stop any existing sound from playing, and then we're just going to do sound player.play. Really, really simple. And then back here, we actually don't want this to play on a wake. We don't want it to loop. And then audio source goes onto sound player. And if we save and run that, we've now added a sound for our gun. So when we shoot, our gun will make a gun popping sound or a zapping sound. I'm not sure if that's. Can you hear that? I don't know if the audio is coming through.
I don't hear anything.
No, hang on a minute. Let me get my Quest to use Windows settings. Right, let's try this. Oh, that's really loud. But you can hear that, so I'm going to stop that because it's. Well, you should be able to hear that. It was coming through on the desktop audio. So we've added another sound in there.
Good.
So what other sounds could we have? Let's add player being hit. Yeah, so when you get hit, it makes a sound. So we're going to do this in a slightly different way. We're going to have on the player an audio source so they can play. So on headset alias, we're going to add an audio source. But we're not going to actually put a clip in here. We're going to say not playing awake here as well. We'll minimize that. And then on the player script, we're going to take in an audio source because we want to be able to play stuff. So again, public audio source sound player. But now we want a clip of them getting hit and probably one of them getting of them dying as well. So we're going to take an audio clip, hit sound, and we're going to have another one called death sound. So one when you get hit, one when you die. And then all we need to do is, if I remember, when we go down into our take damage, if we're greater than 0, we haven't died, so we want to make our sound player do play one, not play on awake, play one shot, our hit sound. That's wrong. Is that an uppercase P? Yeah. So we want to play. That's basically saying tell our audio source to play this audio clip once. So we'll play a hit sound there, and if we die, we'll just play a death sound. Let's add a few more sounds while we've got the time. So there are our player sounds. We'll come back and we'll add some more stuff in a minute. Right, so we've got sound player is going to be this audio source. Hit sound is player hurt. And then death sound is player death. That's fine. Right, let's add some enemy sounds in as well now then. So again, same on the enemy. We're going to have in enemy an audio source that it can play stuff. Audio source sound player, we'll call it again. And then we're going to have a public audio clip for when they get killed. Death sound. What's it calling them in player? Oh, I was calling it death sound. And we'll have another audio clip of when they actually swipe their sword, so we can hear like a swooshing sound. Audio clip, and we'll call it swipe sound. And then what we'll do here is the death one's easy. We just put it in kill. So when they get killed, we just basically want to play that sound. So sound player dot play one shot again, and we want to play the death sound. So it's going to play the death sound when they get killed. So if we go back here quickly, and we need to go to our enemy here, and we need to actually edit this prefab. So in here, we want to do, we want to create a sound player on him. Sorry, an audio source. So we create an audio source. And again, on this audio source, we don't want to play on awake. We've got nothing in there. That audio source is our sound player. Our death sound is monster death. And our swipe sound is monster swipe. We haven't used swipe sound yet, but I'll show you that in a second. And what we're going to do here is actually we're going to use the spatial blending. So at the moment, the monsters are always going to sound like they're right next to us. Well, if we put this all the way to 1, the sound will be in 3D space. So if they're far away from us, their sounds will be quieter. The closer they get to us, the louder their sound will become. So we'll just put that all the way up. That's more processor intensive, so you have to be careful using this sort of stuff. But we're going to try it on this and see how we get on. Right, so that's fine there. So for the swipe sound, we're going to do the same thing again we did with our hit. We're going to use the animation to kind of like fake it. So on our attack, we've already got one event here. So if I just maximize this, um, let's get to the bit where we'd expect the swipe sound. So he lifts his sword up, and then there maybe you go swoosh like that. So about there he starts his swoosh. So we're going to add another event. So in events, we add another one here. We can see we've got 2 events, and we're just going to call this swipe, let's say. And yeah, that'll be fine. And we're going to apply that, and then back in our code, like before when we created these events, it gives us like this magic link. So if we do public void swipe, that's going to happen when that event in the animation occurs. And all we need to do is sound player dot play one shot swipe sound. Okay. So let's have a quick play of this and see how our sounds are doing. Skeleton. That all fine. Did we set up the enemy component? Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so let's run this and see our sounds in action. So, forgot how loud the gun sound is. So if I shoot one, we should get a death sound. There we go, he's died. Let's let one get closer, and when he swipes, we should get a hurt sound and hear the whoosh of his sword. And I'm not sure if you can tell, the sound is louder when I shoot them closer. But there to there. Swipe at me then, mate. Come on.
See? So it sounds the same to me.
Does it? It sounds different to me in here, but maybe that's because it's like getting compressed through the stream or something. But to me, when I shoot them at a distance, it's a lot quieter than when I shoot them right next to me. So we've got up some sounds in now. Last sound we can add is let's just do some kind of like sounds where they're walking towards us, kind of like grunting. So we've got 3 grunt sounds, and we're just going to randomize this a little bit. What we'll do is on our enemy, we're going to create an array of sounds here. So audio clip, we're going to actually make this an array so we can give it multiple ones, and we're going to call this grunt sounds. So now if we go back to our enemy, what you'll see here if I go in here and then open this, what we'll see on enemy script here is grunt sounds is actually now a list, and we've got 3 things that we can put in here now. So in here we can put monster grunt 1, monster grunt 2, and monster grunt 3. And that should be fine. And then we're going to use the animation again to make it randomly play this sound. So we're going to do it on walk. So maybe every time he gets to this point, he makes a grunt. So we're going to go down here, event, and we're going to create a new event, and we're going to call it grunt, let's say, and apply. And then that again is going to create us a magic event inside our enemy code called grunt. So we can just do public void grunt, doesn't take any properties. But now we want to pick what sound we actually want to use. So what we could do quite simply is this. We could just say int sound index, because we've got to pick between those 3 sounds. So it's an array of 0 to 2, 0 being the first sound, 1 being the second sound, 2 being the third sound. So we've got 3 sounds. So we could just basically get a random number between 0 and 2, or 0 and the length of our array. So if we do that random dot range, oh, not random range, random range between 0 and the length of our array, grunt sounds dot length, that's going to pick us a random number between 0 and the length, which is 2. And then basically we're just going to do a quick check in here to say if sound index is less than the array, just so we don't get any crashes. Grunt sounds dot length. So if it's within there, we're going to do sound player, player dot play one shot, grunt sounds, and then we're going to pass that index in, sound index. But what this is going to do is every time he gets to that point, he's going to make a grunt. So it's going to be like grunt, 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 grunt. It's going to change the grunt, but it's going to be there's going to be a lot of grunts going on. So actually what we want to do is we want to reduce the amount of time he does it. We don't want him to grunt all the time. And we can do this really easily just by multiplying this. The higher this is, what's going to happen is if we times this by 2, it's going to pick us a number between 0 and 6. And if it picks 6, 6 isn't it's not going to pass this test because 6 isn't within the length of the grunt sounds array, so it won't happen. So the more we times this by, the less likelihood he's going to make a sound. So I'm actually going to times this by, let's times it by 3 and see how we get on. I think I applied that. And then we run this. We should have now them making a grunt as they walk around. Whenever they start. Here he comes. And this obviously doesn't probably portray on the stream here, but I can hear the direction they are based on my stereo headset. So I can hear these ones grunting over here, and I can hear this one grunting over here because we've used that spatial sound. I don't know why he's not attacking me. Right. So there we go. We've added some sounds in as well. Right. The last thing I probably want to do, and then we can look to wrap up, is I'm going to add in a particle effect when they get hit as well, so it looks like they've had a bigger death. So let's go and pick a particle effect that we can probably use. Let's look at our particle effects again. Particles, normal. What have we got? What's charge pop? What's this look like? It's probably a bit over the top on it for a death. Cosmic reversal. Okay, probably use that maybe. What's arcade spark? Yeah, let's go with arcade spark. So if I go in and edit our monster, this is really, really straightforward to do. This one is. All we need to do on our skeleton, wherever he is, where is he? There he is. We're just going to add in, minimize all this. We're just going to add in that particle normal arcade spark. I'm just going to put him in here and play it. So that's way too big. So let's get rid of some of the stuff in it. Let's just unpack this again. Unpack completely. Let's get rid of sphere pop. It's 8.1, 8.1, 8.1. And then we move this up just so it pops like in him. Which ones are those big ones? I think it's that one. I don't want big. Let's see what that looks like. Just the two. Oh, actually, maybe this one's too big. 8.01, 8.01, 8.01. I'm just fiddling with the particles to see what I can get. There we go. That looks all right. So when it gets hit, it's just going to kind of like explode like that. And what we're going to do is, by default, we're just going to turn this off. And then on our enemy, we're going to create a reference to that game object. So we're going to go public game object hit particles. Is that spelled right? Particles, maybe. And then we know it's off by default. So when we get killed, we're just going to turn it on. So we're just going to say when we get killed, we're going to say hit particles dot set active true. So we're just going to turn that effect on. We've only got one per thing anyway. So here we're going to go here, and then on our enemy hit particles, we're going to say this. So basically, when we get hit now, we turn this on. When this comes on, it automatically plays, so it should go like that when we get hit. So let's turn this off. And if anyone's got any questions as well, start posting them into chat now, because we're gonna be wrapping this one up very soon. So got our gun, we got our score, we got our health bar, we got particles, we got sounds. So if I shoot this one in the distance, we should see a hit particle. So if you see that little one, we're going to get that plus a bigger explosion on him. See, so we definitely know we've hit him. I know we've hit him because we hear the sounds and we see him fall over, but we're getting an extra particle, which is tied just to them. And there we go. That's our wave shooter pretty much in a nutshell. Just going to take my
It looks
headset off.
awesome. It's crazy. The particles make such a big difference. And also having the score on there just all of a sudden makes it look so professional.
That's the thing with Unity though, that, and not just Unity, but game engines in itself, but Unity definitely does make it easy. Like particles, the animation system, the nav mesh system, all the things we've used in this are so accessible for people to make something really, really. I mean, this has took us what 2 hours tops, really, probably,
Hmm.
to do, and we've added stuff in that, as you say, makes it look like a whole game studio's worked on it. But you can see how easy this sort of stuff is for anybody to have a go at making something. Um, Obviously, infinite wave shooters in VR are kind of like 10 a penny, but they are fun. And I say what I'll do is I'll tidy this one up what we've got here, and I'll publish the full final project um, as I did with the escape room, as like the full Unity project, so people can download it if they want it. And then I'll also look to see if we can just put this on App Lab, because it works fine on Quest. I've played this on Quest and it runs
Cool.
okay, so we can definitely do that. But there we go. In a nutshell, we've built a wave shooter in Unity in what, about 2 hours.
Yeah.
The one other thing that we could look to add to this, which I'm not going to bother because I actually want to do a session on this in general in itself, is the avatar hands, and add poses when we grab the gun and things like that. But I don't really want to go into this now because it's probably a little bit too advanced for what we're doing here, and I'd like to do like a session on the avatar hands and showing them off and stuff like that. So we'll probably look to cover that down the line. But if anyone wants to copy this and add that stuff in yourself and have a mess around again with the escape room, I'd love to see people go away, build a little wave shooter like this, send it to us, and we'll have a play. Maybe we could do a stream playing other people's games or whatnot. I think it'd be really cool to see other people's creations. And then I think for next week, I think we'll look at doing, as I say, like an assault course where you have to run around, climb up things, grab on zip wires, zip down, and we'll have like
That sounds
we'll have a coin that you have to collect. We'll probably use your jazz coin, and that's the thing that you have to collect. And maybe there's a timer that you've got to get to the end and see how many coins you've collected by the time you get to the end.
that sounds so cute. You know what? I started going to the gym recently, so this could be like, the VR version.
Yeah, it could well be. We could well have the latest VR exercise extravaganza on our hands.
Or what is it? The American Ninja
Well,
Warriors? I think
yeah,
it's called.
that's the kind of thing I think we look to build, like like Wipeout, American Ninja-esque type thing, where it's just in a little assault course where you've got to get from the next bit to the next bit, and we just add simple climbing mechanisms and add
Right.
in zip wires that you can grab on and it zips you down and things like that, collecting coins. We'll make it really,
Be
really
the
simple.
VR Ninja Warrior.
Exactly, yeah, VR Ninja Warrior. That's what we're gonna do. We can probably work the word VR into the title some way, like Ninja Warrior. Like the way all games used to have the word VR in when they were a VR
Otherwise,
game.
VR.
Yeah, exactly. I'm guessing there's no questions from chat, as nobody's posted anything into chat. So I
Today's
guess we can,
lesson is pretty clear.
yeah, and we can look to wrap this one up now. Then we don't have to run over. We've gone to 1 hour 15, which is pretty good.
Thanks for joining, everybody.
Yeah, thanks everyone. There we go. Look, out of my Ninja Warrior. He's nailed it. That's what it's called. That's how you name VR
Ninja
games.
War VR.
Yeah,
I love it. That's perfect.
that's how you name these sorts of games.
VR. That sounds great.
So we'll come back and we'll do that next week then. So I guess that's sort of ready to wrap up then. So um, thanks everyone for watching. Please consider
Thank
subscribing to
you.
the channel. Go and check out Jasmine's stuff, and I'll put a link in the description down below to that video Jasmine mentioned at the start as well. And
Yeah, watch my video.
yep, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye for now.